Mother Earth is the home to about 8.7 million species, of which 6.5 million are on land and 2.2 million in the oceans. 7 billion humans inhabit Mother Earth. Of the 92 elements produced here on Earth, 6 are very critical to the survival of living organisms, namely hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. The said elements are part of the complex cycles that pass through the biosphere, atmosphere, hydrosphere, and geosphere. These cycles circulate nutrients through the soil into plants, microbes, and animals, and then return the elements to the planet through chemical processes ranging from respiration to decomposition. Based on the primary source of nutrient input in the ecosystem, biogeochemical cycles can be classified into two, namely gaseous and sedimentary cycles. Sedimentary cycles basically involve soil, rocks, and minerals, and mainly involve two phases, namely salt solution and rock. The sedimentary cycles are represented by sulfur and phosphorus cycles. The oxygen-carbon, on the other hand, represents the gaseous cycles, nitrogen cycles, which make use of the atmosphere as their major pool. Inputs, internal cycling, and outputs are the three basic components in all nutrient cycles. Inputs vary depending on the type of biogeochemical cycle. The nature of the soil then determines the ability of the different nutrients in terrestrial ecosystems. Giving aid to the transport of nutrients in the system are different occurrences such as rain, snow, air currents, and animals. For aquatic life, the major source of inputs come from the surrounding land. Carbon is involved in energy fixation and found in both living organisms and fossil deposits. The source of carbon is carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and the waters. Carbon cycles through the ecosystem at a rate that depends on the rates of primary productivity and decomposition. Both processes are faster in warm, wet ecosystems. Carbon dioxide in the air is drawn by photosynthesis into the living components of the ecosystem. Through the grazing food chain, carbon passes to herbivores and carnivores. Carbon was released back to the atmosphere by these producers and consumers in the form of carbon dioxide by respiration. The carbon in plant and animal tissues go to the reservoir of dead organic matter and are also released by decomposers to the atmosphere through respiration. In swamps and marshes, carbon circulates slowly when stored as humus or peat, and over time, this buildup will form fossil fuels. In freshwater and marine environments, carbon dioxide in the upper layers of water is used by phytoplanktons, then from the primary producers through the aquatic food chain. Carbon dioxide produced through respiration is reused and reintroduced to the atmosphere. The carbon cycle experiences daily and seasonal fluctuations, wherein the carbon dioxide builds up at night when respiration increases. Carbon dioxide drops sharply during the day. During the growing season, atmospheric concentration drops. Earth's budget of carbon is related to the atmosphere, land and oceans, and to the mass of air. In the ocean, surface waters act as the main site of carbon exchange between the atmosphere and the ocean. Uptake of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere depends on photosynthesis. Losses are a function of autotrophic and heterotrophic respiration. Nitrogen is available to plants in ammonium form and nitrate form. Even though it is 80% of the atmosphere, its form as nitrogen gas is not available for assimilation. It enters the ecosystems through atmospheric decomposition and nitrogen fixation. Atmospheric deposition can be in wet fall or in dry fall. Nitrogen fixation comes in two ways. First is high energy fixation through cosmic radiation, meteorite trails, and lightning. Second is biological, which is characterized by the fixation of atmospheric nitrogen by mutualistic nitrogen-fixing bacteria associated with the roots of many plants, largely legumes, and cyanobacteria. Other processes are ammonification, production of ammonia by microbial decomposition of organic matter. Nitrification is the bacterial oxidation of ammonia to nitrate. Denitrification occurs in anaerobic conditions. It is the reduction of nitrates to gaseous nitrogen and is then returned to the atmosphere. The largest reservoir is in the atmosphere, with fairly small amounts of nitrogen found in the biomass and soils of terrestrial ecosystems. Human activity greatly influenced the global nitrogen cycle and has been the growing cause of concern till this day. Major nitrogen inputs are from the industries, agriculture, and automobiles. The phosphorus cycle has no significant atmospheric pool. Rock and natural phosphate deposits are the main reservoirs of phosphorus through weathering, erosion, leaching, and mining. The terrestrial phosphorus comes from weathering of calcium phosphate. In marine and freshwater ecosystems, however, the cycle moves through three states: particulate organic phosphorus, dissolved organic phosphates, and inorganic phosphates. Phytoplankton takes up organic and inorganic phosphates. Zooplankton consumes and excrete phosphorus. Bacteria eat organic phosphorus and microbial grazers consume bacteria. These organisms are involved in the cycle. The global phosphorus cycle is unique in having no significant atmospheric component, although airborne transport of phosphorus appears in the form of soil dust and sea spray. Under natural conditions, the transfer of phosphorus from terrestrial to aquatic ecosystems is low. The large-scale application of phosphate fertilizers and disposal of sewage and wastewater to the aquatic environment results in large amounts of phosphorus. The sulfur cycle is both sedimentary and gaseous. Sulfur has both sedimentary and gaseous phases. In the sedimentary phase, sulfur is tied up in organic and inorganic deposits and comes from the weathering of rocks and decomposition. The gaseous phase of the cycle allows sulfur circulation on a global scale. It enters the atmosphere through combustion of fuels, volcanic eruptions, exchange at the surface of the oceans, and gases from decomposition. It enters initially as a hydrogen sulfide, then oxidizes to sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide reacts with moisture in the atmosphere to form a weak sulfuric acid that is carried to Earth in precipitation. Plants incorporate this acid into sulfur-bearing amino acids through metabolic processes, such as photosynthesis. Consumptions, excretion, and death from living organisms carry sulfur back to soil and to the bottom of the aquatic environments where bacteria release it as hydrogen sulfide or sulfate. Poorly understood. The gaseous phase of the sulfur cycle permits circulation on a global scale. The atmosphere contains sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, and sulfate particles. Sulfate particles become part of dry fall, or the dry deposition. Gases forms combine with moisture and are transported in precipitation, also called wetfall. Dimethyl sulfide is the major gas emitted from the ocean that is generated by biological processes. It is the largest natural source of sulfur gases released to the atmosphere. The dominant sulfur gas emitted from freshwater wetlands and anoxic soils is hydrogen sulfide. Volcanic activity contributes to the global biogeochemical cycle of sulfur. Human activity also plays a dominant role in the said cycle. The oxygen cycle is largely under biological control. There are two significant sources of atmospheric oxygen: the breakup of water vapor, where water molecules are disassociated to produce hydrogen and oxygen. Then, the photosynthesis, where oxygen is produced by photosynthetic autotrophs and consumed by both autotrophs and heterotrophs in the process of cellular respiration. Undecomposed organic matter in the form of fossil fuels and carbon in sedimentary rocks represent a net positive flux of oxygen to the atmosphere. Other main reservoirs of oxygen are water and carbon dioxide. Oxygen is exchangeable in compounds such as nitrates and sulfates, where it is transformed from ammonia and hydrogen sulfide. Oxygen combines with nitrogen compounds to form nitrates, with iron to form ferric oxides, and other minerals to form various oxides. Part of the atmospheric oxygen is reduced to ozone by high-energy ultraviolet radiation. Ozone is an ambivalent atmospheric gas. It shields the planet from biologically harmful ultraviolet radiation. However, if it is close to the ground, it is considered as a damaging pollutant, cutting visibility, irritating eyes, and respiratory systems, or killing plant life. In the stratosphere, ozone is diminished by its reaction with human-caused pollutants. In the troposphere, ozone is made from the union of nitrogen oxides with oxygen in the presence of sunlight. Solar radiation breaks the oxygen to oxygen bond in oxygen gas. Then freed oxygen atoms rapidly combine with oxygen gas to form ozone. At the same time, a reverse reaction consumes ozone to form an oxygen ion and oxygen gas. The various biogeochemical cycles are linked. Biogeochemical cycles are linked between calcium and phosphorus in the mineral apatite, a phosphate of calcium, and the link between nitrogen and oxygen in nitrate. They travel together in their odyssey through internal cycling. Photosynthesis uses 6 moles of water and produces 6 moles of oxygen for every 6 carbon dioxide that is transformed into 1 mole of sugar. A fixed quantity of nitrogen is required to produce a mole of Robisco, the enzyme that catalyzes the fixation of carbon dioxide in photosynthesis. The branch dealing with the quantitative relationships of elements in combination is called stoichiometry. Stoichiometric relationships among various elements involved in process related to carbon uptake and plant growth have an important influence on the cycling of nutrients in ecosystems. The limitation of one nutrient can affect the cycling of all the others. The cycles of all essential nutrients for plant and animal growth are linked because of the stoichiometric relationships defining the mixture of chemicals that make up all living matter.